This is Diamond D with where I'm giving you some love advice, some happiness advice, some everyday good advice to make your day a little more loving. Hello, this is Diamond D with Love and Happiness, where I'm giving you some love advice, some happiness advice, some everyday good advice to make your day a little more loving. Today I am joined with Dr. Tamara Diaz. Dr. Diaz is the founder and CEO of TWD Coaching and Consultant. This is an organization where she works with millennials to help support them and develop a successful and career objective professionally and personally. Dr. Diaz believes that putting yourself first allows you to ensure that your cup is full so that you remain at the best that you can be. She is passionate about walking side by side with each of her clients to help them accomplish all of their goals. Please welcome Dr. Diaz to our show. How are you
Thank
doing
you.
today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm thrilled to have you.
I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. So tell me more about the organization that you have founded and managed called TWD Coaching and Consulting.
Absolutely. So my background really lies in K through 12 education and in the nonprofit sector. And through all of those years, I spent so much time giving of myself to other people, pouring into other people, making sure other people's children had what they needed, making sure that the community had what it needed. And in this work, I really met lots of other leaders. And the common theme amongst all of us was that we spent so much time developing everything else that we never developed ourselves. And I realized the importance to have servant leaders really take the time to pause, evaluate what they need, evaluate what they want to do to be successful in their own lives. And I decided to create a coaching and consulting business that would allow me to do that from a heart of understanding that people are investing themselves. They're taking jobs where they know they're going to have to give to other people, but they also need to be in a space where they can receive coaching and support so that they can help others.
Let's talk a little bit about that support in terms of how you provide self-care or recommend that your clients provide self-care.
Absolutely. So it's ironic to me that in the nonprofit world or in the education world, you have people who spend so much time taking care of everyone else's needs. I've never been in a classroom where I haven't seen a teacher willing to give the shirt off their own back to a student who needed it, or to make sure that student had food or the family had resources. I've worked with community organizations where people will work 70 to 80-hour weeks to make sure that their organizations can feed the homeless or provide tutoring services. I mean, you name it, people are pouring out of themselves every day. But what people are not doing is pouring back into themselves. So it's also very common that when you look into these sectors and into these career fields, people burn out very quickly. I believe that when I entered into the nonprofit sector as an executive director, there was like a 3 to 4 year turnover rate in a field that typically in that role, you want to be in it for 10 years to really kind of make change at your organization. But the turnover rate was extremely high. You see the same thing in education. People get in and they're drained so much that they can't sustain themselves. And so I really believe that you cannot pour from an empty cup, but there's nobody out there who's really supporting people so that they feel confident and comfortable making themselves a priority. And so I really believe in working one-on-one with people, working in teams so that people really know it's not selfish for me to take care of myself. It's not selfish for me to make sure that I'm prioritizing my own needs so that I can then be better for the people I serve.
But how does that look on a daily basis? Because everybody is aware that self-care is important, but when it comes to the actual skills, habits, tactics to achieve it, how does that look?
I think self-care looks completely different for everyone. And when I approach it, I always encourage people like self-care is not always 3 hour yoga sessions, green smoothies, and journaling for 10 hours. Like it does not have to be that because for some people, yoga may be more stressful than it is helpful. So that may not be self-care for you. I really encourage people to take an inventory of what they enjoy, what brings them joy, and then what areas of life would they like to see change or would they think help. So an example for some may be I'm going to wake up 10 minutes before everybody else in my house and read for 10 minutes just so that I can like clear my head first. Because clearing my head before everybody wakes up is what I need to make sure that I can be successful today. Self-care for other people may be therapy. I mean, mental health is a huge aspect of making sure that we can help other people. And so for some, it may be I've decided to look into getting a therapist that I can meet with once a month and have some difficult conversations and work through some things. And so I always say self-care should really be practical for you and where your life is. If you're somebody who can dedicate an hour and a half to 2 hours a day to it, then by all means, figure out what areas of your life you really want to improve upon. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, like you can't do it, carve out 10 to 15 minute chunks of your day and just take 10 minutes and do breathing, or 5 minutes here and do some meditation. It really can look like whatever you need for your lifestyle.
Good point. Good point. Now, you mentioned having an inventory or doing a self-assessment to determine your self-care. I know that your organization also has different inventories to help with career and how to work well with people, not only in a personal environment, but also in a professional environment. Can you talk a little bit about your DISC assessments and your personal inventory assessments?
Absolutely. So the DISC assessment is widely popular. Over 2 million people have taken it, and it's simply an assessment to better understand your personality type and your behavioral style. It was created by a psychologist named William Marston, and it just looks at how an individual ranks in 4 areas of behavior. And those 4 areas are dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. So those are the words that make up the DISC acronym. And really, it's designed for people who want to identify and maximize their strengths, but also for organizations who are looking to really have high performing teams and high functioning teams. And so I take the DISC and I use it with my clients and with organizations to really investigate who people are and why they do what they do. The beauty of the DISC is that there is no wrong or right answer. So a lot of people will take it and say, in the 4 areas, should I be a high D or should I be a high S? Like, which one is right? And I tell people that there isn't a right behavioral style or personality type. It's simply an inventory so that you understand why you make the decisions you do and how you function. So that once you become more aware, you really know how you balance out the people around you, and then maybe areas where you may want to grow and improve.
Good information. Now, let me ask you, how can we apply that DISC assessment to interpersonal relationships, either with a spouse, a lover, or a family member?
Oh my goodness, in so many ways. One of the biggest things that we see the DISC impact is communication. So someone who typically scores a high D on the assessment, people would often say they're very confrontational. They get straight to the point. They're very concise. They're very short. And they don't really want to, they're not going to stay around for details. So you might notice in conversations that they cut you off because they're just trying to get to the point. On the flip side, someone who scores in the high S category moves very slowly. So they're going to want more details. They're going to want more information. Their pacing is going to be much slower, and they're going to become frightened when someone tries to speed up their pace, and they can be known to retract. And so if I take that and I put that in a relationship sense, and if I'm the high D and my partner's a high S, I'm wondering why they take so long to do everything. Why is it that when I ask you to do something, you're moving so slow? Why is it when it's time to make a decision, it takes you 3 weeks to decide? And I'm getting frustrated, not knowing their behavioral type is naturally someone who just moves slower and needs time to process. And on the flip side, they may be wondering, why are you always so confrontational? Why are you rushing me? Why do you always put this pressure on me and I don't have time to think? I feel like you're judging me if I want more time. And so really we see it improve people's communication and awareness of how other people function, so that not necessarily they can change, but they become more aware of how to respond. Yeah. So I know if you need 10 minutes, I'm not going to give you 30 seconds and then get upset when you don't respond. I'm going to give you 10 minutes, walk away, come back, and then we can revisit it. So it really can help interpersonal communication skills in huge ways.
Mm-hmm. Just like the old proverb says, seek understanding in your communication so that Absolutely. You guys are on the same page. Now, when you mention the D and the S, does that equate to like type A and type B personalities, or is it totally irrelevant?
It's different. And the D, again, to people, the D just stands for dominance. And that just means like how assertive you tend to be. Some people will score higher, some will score lower. And then your S is steadiness, and that just means pacing. And so typically in each of the four categories, it simply orientates you to which of these areas you are stand out to be more important to you. So you'll take it and you'll score in each category. And the great thing about the disc is that it doesn't just say you scored 55 points, you're a high D. It'll tell you what you score in each category. So you can really get a full picture of how you approach each of those components.
How long is this test?
It takes about 10 to 15 minutes. It's not long at all.
Good. Well, we have an individual who would like to ask you a question. I'm going to allow him to come in the room at this point, and then he can pose the question to you.
Awesome.
It looks like his sound is not working. But while he's there, he made me aware that his question was, how can he get in agreement with his career when it comes to having his book successful? Solomon has written a book. I believe he has written 2 books, and he's trying to get the sales to take off. So what kind of advice would you give Solomon in terms of getting his author career up and running?
Awesome question. And I will preface this by saying that I am not at all like a marketing expert or sales expert, but I will give you some tips just based on kind of what I've seen work in terms of building relationships. And what I've learned is that people do not buy products, they buy people. They buy into personalities and relationships. And typically when I buy books, or when people I know buy books, they're buying them because they form some type of personal connection, or the person that the author of the book has made some type of relationship with them. Not meaning you have to know them personally, but the story you're telling or who you are as a person has connected with them. And so ideally, I would, of course, ask you to think about who is the target demographic that your book is for. As in anything, when you're creating a product, like you want to find your niche market, like who is your book for? And then really speak to those type of people. And so I can tell you, like, one of the books that I just read was Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's a very popular book. And I read that book because it specifically spoke to wanting to develop solid routines in your life. And the author really connected with, are you someone who finds themselves struggling with consistency and really needing to hone in on that in your own life? And really framed and painted the picture of how that book would give me some advice or would allow me to really come out on the other side stronger than before I read it. So as an author, really think about the demographic and what people can expect on the other side of your book. So if it's nonfiction, people are typically reading.
We had a little bit of technical issues and lost our video feed. But in the interim, let me leave you with this quote by Andrew Carnegie, which says, "And here's the prime condition of success, the great secret. Concentrate your energy, thoughts, and capital exclusively upon the business in which you are engaged in. Having begun in one line, resolve to fight it out on that line, to lead it in. Adopt every improvement, have the best machinery, and know the most about it." Now, as we resolve our technical issues, think about that quote. Nonfiction.
Yeah. So if it's nonfiction, you want to make sure that people are connecting with the purpose of the book, so the benefit that they're going to gain on the other side. If we're reading self-improvement or self-development, I want to read it so that at the end of reading it, I have become better or stronger in some way. Or your knowledge base is stronger than mine. So what are you going to teach me that I didn't know before? And if it's fiction, you want to make sure that people are sucked into the story. When I read a fiction book, I am reading it because I want to be a part of it. I want to know what the characters are feeling. I want to be on their journey. So take people through that. And so once you consider all of that, the other thing I always encourage people to do is proximity is everything. Who is around you and who do you know that can share this book for you? Aside from paying for marketing and running ads and that kind of thing, as an author, your relationships with other people are really going to be important. Word of mouth has sold lots of books to me. people have read books and then told me about them, and I immediately go to Amazon or go somewhere to buy them. So how are you engaging other people around you to not only read your book, but to share it? Really be able to engage. And then once they read it, reach back out to them. How did you enjoy the book? What's your feedback? And engage them in that conversation. And I think that'll really help you, especially as a beginning author, to not only just build your base and get some testimonials, but it'll really allow people to get to know you as well.
That is very good advice for Solomon. Solomon, I'm going to try to unmute you. And in that process of unmuting you, I want you to tell me the name of your book, let people know where they can find it. And thank you so much for your appearance today. So Solomon, quickly tell us the name of your book.
All right. The name of my book is The Sunrise in the West. And
where can people find it?
It can be found on Amazon. Just type in The Sunrise in the West. It's under my pen name, which is Suleiman Idris. And you know, the content's sort of provocative, and so I don't necessarily want to put my mama's name up there. And so it's under my pen.
Understandably so. Thank you, Solomon, so much for your information and for your question today.
All right.
Okay, take care.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tamara. So in the process of coaching individuals about how they can be their better self, I know that you also have a superpower component. Can you elaborate a little bit about your superpower?
Absolutely.
Or how you tap into a person's superpower?
For sure. So one of the ways that I do the DISC assessment is when you take it, we immediately focus on what area you score highest in. And as people, we tend to be very critical of ourselves. So people will take it and immediately say, where am I low? How do I suck? Where do I need to improve? And I never take that approach. The first thing I do is that we explore what area they scored highest in and then how to maximize that. So again, going back to someone who scores high in the D category, which is dominance, they're going to be your leaders, like your natural born leaders. In a room, they walk in, if they're in a group, they're the person that's going to take control of the group, make sure everybody knows what they need to do, and make sure that the task gets done. So how do you engage that superpower in the workplace or in a relationship, or even just in your day-to-day? You give this person opportunity to step up and serve. If I'm someone who likes to be behind the scenes, I'm going to leverage this person who wants to be out in front and wants to handle everything and kind of pass things off and use that as an opportunity to delegate. So really a lot of times things that could come across, again, if I'm a high D and I'm coming across harsh or fast, it could just be because I'm not maximizing my superpower in a way that's effective. So once we know what that superpower is, we can have a discussion about it and say, now that I know I'm gifted in this way, how can it really work to my benefit in either my personal relationships or my professional career?
Very good. Now, I know that you had mentioned in a conversation prior to today about a book that you were reading in terms of habits and how to develop good habits. Can you talk a little bit about your book recommendations and what you have learned from the book on habits, as well as any other books that you think will be valuable for us?
Absolutely. So there's two that come to mind. The first would be Atomic Habits by James Clear. And the second one would be The Compound Effect. And that book, both of those books really drive home a very foundational concept. And that is that to be successful, you don't actually need to make huge, giant changes. It really starts with very small changes that add up over time. And so, for example, a lot of people, when they set weight loss goals, they say, you know, I really want to lose 15 or 20 pounds. And they do these drastic things like sign up for a $200 gym membership and say they're going to work out for an hour every day. And then they buy all these workout clothes and then they get rid of everything in their house that has sugar in it. And then 2 weeks later, they've likely given up on that goal. They've quit because they did too much too fast. Whereas if they had said, I want to lose 30 pounds, so maybe I'll start out with walking 10 minutes a day and then build up to 15 minutes a day. That is a habit that they would have started off so small with that would have compounded over time. So they would have gotten much further doing a smaller goal that they would have stuck with for a month rather than sticking with a goal that's super big for a week and then feeling burned out. And so we get this concept that to see monumental change in our life, so many of us think we have to make these drastic changes. And really, it's small, consistent changes that add up over time that get us to where we want to be.
I like that philosophy. I think a lot of times people make New Year's resolutions, and what over 90% of New Year's resolutions get broken. But you have to kind of look in a broader perspective instead of saying, you know, I'm going to have this as my New Year resolution. Let's take those small steps, like you said, and say, you know, within 3 years, I'm going to lose XYZ amount of weight. As opposed to trying to do it all in a year and then getting overwhelmed and frustrated with yourself when you don't accomplish it. Now, you mentioned the second book.
Really aligns with the same thing, and it really just talks about compounded change over time. So really making small changes along the way and sticking with them. And like Atomic Habits, the theme that we see is consistency. Really, in order to do anything in life, to accomplish anything, to make any kind of change, you have to be consistent with whatever you're doing. People who run half marathons aren't successful because they wake up one day and they run 13 miles. They're successful because they follow a training plan for 3 to 4 months, and they wake up every single day focused on a specific goal of that training plan. And so again, focusing on the fact that whatever you want to do in life, you got to be intentional about making consistent behaviors a part of your life versus just saying, I'm going to do this one thing and I'm going to do it well today. And then tomorrow, I don't know what's going to happen. So really encourage yourself if you're feeling like I had a New Year's resolution and I'm not making it happen right now, or I forgot about it. How can I make one small change and then continue that change over time and compound it so that I can see the results that I want?
Very good. Now, where's your practice?
I'm based in Virginia, but now, thanks to, you know, this pandemic, virtually I can pretty much work with anyone. But I'm based in Central Virginia right now.
Wonderful. And what is your most successful success story with your client? What has been your most memorable achievement with your client?
Well, that's a great question. So probably one of the biggest impacts for me is when I coach someone and they have the light bulb moment, like they're able to make some connection between, wow, like this is my superpower and this is why I'm feeling this way, or this is why I've been feeling like this. And so for me, I had coached someone who worked in the IT field and just reached out and said, you know, I'm trying to develop my personal brand and kind of who I am as a professional, and I don't know where to start. But I also don't really know how to define myself or describe myself and describe what I'm good at. And so we went through the assessment, and immediately, based on his assessment's results, we found out that he thrives in roles where he can give back to other people or be in service roles. His current job had none of that. And so he immediately was like, that's why I leave. And I'm thinking something is missing. Like I've been feeling like something has been missing for so long and I didn't know why. But now I know, like it's on that service aspect. And so we were able to really walk through how he could take his current role in IT and apply it in a service related field, still doing what he's talented at and what he's certified in, but maximizing another area of his life that was important. And so those moments for me, when I can see people not only have the light bulb go off, but almost complete the puzzle, that's really important for me.
How are you advising your clients that are, I wouldn't say victims, but I almost feel like they are victims of COVID-19 and the fact that they lost their employment. They've sort of lost confidence in who they are. How are you addressing those particular issues in the eye of the pandemic?
I think that the biggest thing is, one, again, going back to that superpower, when you know you're talented and gifted, you understand that jobs change and titles change, but your gifts don't. And so understanding that I'm gifted and I'm talented, and I can be gifted and talented wherever I go. The location may change and my title may change, but I'm still strong in these areas. So I've really been encouraging people to hone in on what they're good at and getting explicit about that, bragging on that. A lot of times we want to be humble about what we're good at, and we want to brush it under the rug that one time that, we were asked to take over the meeting and we did a really good job at it and nobody else was prepared, but we were. Those are things we need to be speaking to. And so I encourage people now to take time back, really evaluate what their successes were at the job that they either no longer have or that they may have been furloughed from or may be leaving. Really look at what their successes were, brag on that, and use this time to revise your cover letter, revise your resume, and really make sure that it is representative of sharing all of the accomplishments that you've had at your previous placement.
Thank you. Dr. Tamara, tell the audience where they can contact you in Virginia.
Absolutely. Feel free to contact me via my website, www.tamaradiaz.com. Email me, tamara@tamaradiaz.com. And I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Dr. Tamara W. Diaz. And that's it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you once again for being on the show. And thank you to my viewers for watching. And remember, God loves you. Take care.
Thank you.